My parents skipped my wedding because I married before my perfect sister. Now her wedding is falling apart, and I never lifted a finger. I didn't cry when I realized my parents weren't coming to my wedding. I laughed. Not a joyful laugh. One of those hollow, cracked things that slips out when you finally see the full extent of a truth you've avoided your entire life. I was in the makeup chair, eyeliner in one hand, checking my phone for the 5th time in 15 minutes. No RSVP. No running late. Not even a text. They just weren't coming. I'd already guessed my sister Mullen wouldn't be there. We were the kind of siblings who could sit across from each other at family dinners and go 2 hours without speaking. She didn't hate me. Hatred implies passion. What she had for me was worse. Mild, practiced disdain. But my parents? My parents had RSVP'd with silence. No confirmation, no denial. Nothing. As if my wedding was a grocery store flyer that got wedged in their mailbox by mistake. It's funny. For most of my adult life, I've moved around the truth like a rock in my shoe. I'd pretend I didn't feel it, adjust the way I walked, tell myself it wasn't there. But that day, that silence, ripped the truth wide open. I was never going to be enough for them. Not compared to her. Mullen, the perfect daughter. The family's own glass figurine. If you knew her, you'd see why. Tall, lean, naturally photogenic in the kind of way that makes strangers turn their heads. The type who could wear beige and look like it was a fashion statement. She won spelling bees before she lost her baby teeth, gave valedictorian speeches without breaking a sweat, and modeled part-time during college as if it were a hobby she stumbled into. When she booked her first modeling gig, my parents threw her a party. The framed headshot still hangs above the fireplace, above mine and hers both, staring down like a patron saint of family legacy. The same year I graduated with my degree in computer science, they nodded distractedly at my diploma before diving into plans for Mullen's next photo shoot. I remember sitting at the table, a well done from my mother barely registering before she launched into talking about lighting, camera angles, makeup artists. I don't think she even asked what my major was. Growing up, I was always the background noise to my sister's highlight reel. If she was the shining star, I was the studio assistant, there to hold the lights, adjust the script, and clap politely when she hit her marks. My body didn't help. I was shorter, rounder, sturdy, as my father once called me, with the tight-lipped expression of someone complimenting a lawnmower. My mother tried to mold me into something more presentable. She signed me up for workout boot camps at 13, circled my waistline in red on photos like we were doing anatomy class, and told me flatly, "You could look like your sister if you just tried harder." Eventually, I stopped trying. In my mid-20s, I made a decision that saved my life. I stopped asking them to see me. I built my own space, my own worth, and surrounded myself with people who didn't see me as Mullen's shadow. And then I met James. He was the first person who ever looked at me, really looked at me, and didn't measure me against someone else. He didn't care that I wasn't slender or shiny. He liked that I was blunt, that I coded like I breathed, that I loved puzzle games, niche documentaries, and eating Thai food on the floor while wearing mismatched socks. We dated for 4 years. Quiet, steady love. And one night, mid-episode of our favorite trash TV series, he proposed with the ring tucked inside a takeaway container. It was perfect. When I told my parents I was engaged, the silence was immediate. Not surprise, not joy, just stillness. Then my mother spoke. "Are you sure you want to rush into this? Maybe focus on getting in better shape first. For the pictures." My father? He just nodded and went back to his crossword puzzle. That should have been my warning. At the engagement party, they huddled in a corner whispering into my mother's phone. James told me later he overheard them talking to Mullen, who wasn't even engaged yet, about how this wasn't the plan, about how they never imagined Rebecca would get married first. They didn't help with the wedding, didn't offer to tour venues. When I found the perfect A-line gown, my mother said it was practical and suitable. Not beautiful, not flattering, just suitable for your figure. Still, I sent the invites. Electronic and paper. Both confirmed delivered. I texted. I called. I emailed. I even reminded them twice, thinking maybe they were just old and disorganized. They ghosted me. 8 months ago, I got married in a garden surrounded by laughter, flowers, and the kind of joy you can't fake. My in-laws cried, danced, hugged me like I was their own. My parents' seats at the front? Empty. My sisters? Never reserved. The father-daughter dance. I sat that one out. Told people I was tired. But I wasn't tired. I was hollowed out. And when we came back from our honeymoon, my mother finally picked up the phone. Not to apologize, but to scold. Why didn't you send us a proper invitation? You left us out. Do you know how humiliating that was for us? I checked the guest list. Pulled up the delivery confirmations. Told her I had proof. You must have sent it to the wrong address. They hadn't moved in 30 years. That night, James sat next to me on the porch. I told him everything. He listened, really listened. And then he said something that changed me forever. They didn't miss your wedding by accident. They missed it on purpose. He was right. They never planned to come. And that's when I finally understood I was never the problem. I used to tell myself that if I just stayed quiet long enough, they'd eventually notice me. Turns out, silence doesn't make people love you. It just makes you easier to ignore. My sister Molin had 6 Pinterest boards for a wedding that didn't exist yet. My mother helped her make every one of them. Bridal silhouettes that flatter tall women. Beach ceremonies under $80,000. Hairstyles for veil perfection. Each board more elaborate than the last. They bookmarked luxury venues she'd never visited. Dress boutiques with champagne fittings. Cakes shaped like crystal chandeliers. Meanwhile, when I asked my mom to help me shop for my dress, she glanced at her calendar and told me she was booked for the next 3 Saturdays. No follow-up. No apologies. So I went without her. Just me, James's sister, and my soon-to-be mother-in-law. And when I found it, the one, I didn't cry. I laughed again, because the saleswoman asked, "Will your mother be joining us later?" "No," I said too quickly. "She's busy." I didn't tell her the truth. That my mother didn't think this wedding deserved her time. That she hadn't even called me once since we got engaged except to ask about my dress size, which she followed up with a text. "Don't go sleeveless. Think about your arms." Every part of the wedding felt like I was stealing something. Stealing happiness I wasn't supposed to have. It wasn't even about Molin getting married first. It was about me getting there at all. I wasn't supposed to beat her to the altar. I was supposed to wait, quietly, patiently, until she had her perfect day, her perfect photos, her perfect husband. Instead, I found someone who loved me with all the quiet steadiness that my family never could. And that, somehow, became a threat. After we sent the invitations, confirmed received via red receipts, I waited. When no RSVP came, I reached out, called, texted, emailed. Every message got the same kind of reply. "We're still sorting our schedules. We'll let you know soon." Soon never came. I should have canceled their seats. But I held on. Hope is a terrible addiction when you're used to being second best. It tells you to try one more time. Just one more call. One more nudge. The night before the wedding, I called my mom again. She didn't pick up. Instead, I got a voicemail 2 hours later. "Sorry, sweetie. Your father isn't feeling well and Molin's in a rough patch. We'll be thinking of you. Send pictures." Pictures. Not love. Not pride. Just the polite request for a highlight reel they could skim through like a stranger's vacation album. I told James what they said. He didn't comment. Just opened his laptop and scrolled through the list of people who had RSVP'd. People who were traveling cross-country to be with us. Co-workers. College friends. His family. Even my high school lab partner was flying in from Oregon. But my own parents? A no-show. I spent the morning of my wedding surrounded by laughter, mimosas, and women who called me their sister even though we didn't share blood. My soon-to-be niece helped zip my dress. My best friend braided my hair. James's mother cried when she saw me in full makeup. And yet, in every photo, I saw the empty space where they should have been. Not just the seats, but the space in me that still wanted them to show up. The wedding itself was beautiful. The sun filtered through the garden trees, just right. James's vows were so personal, people wept. I didn't cry, not even during the kiss. But when the music for the father-daughter dance started, and the DJ asked me to come forward, I excused myself to the restroom instead. Later that night, while James and I sat barefoot on the balcony of our Airbnb, champagne flutes in hand, he finally said it. They never planned to be part of this. It wasn't a question. It was a confirmation of everything I'd been trying to ignore. 2 weeks after we got back from the honeymoon, I called my mother. "Why didn't you come?" I asked. Not accusatory. Just tired. Her answer? "You didn't send us a proper invitation." A proper invitation. As if the custom paper envelopes, the embossed lettering, and the 2 hand-delivered backups weren't good enough. She launched into a monologue about being hurt. about how I'd made everything difficult, about how she'd always imagined being a part of her daughter's wedding and how I had robbed her of that chance. I didn't argue. I told her we had proof they received both invites. She claimed we must have sent them to an old address, even though they'd lived in the same house for 30 years and I'd confirmed the delivery online. I didn't call her out for gaslighting me. I just apologized, not because I believed I was wrong, but because I needed the conversation to end before I said something I couldn't take back. After I hung up, James brought up everything he'd noticed. The way they whispered at the engagement party, the weird silence when we announced the proposal, the excuses to avoid planning. I didn't tell you before because I didn't want to ruin anything, he admitted. But now, looking back, I think they couldn't handle you being first. They wanted you to wait for her. Forever, if that's what it took. It made sense. A twisted kind of sense. I had broken the script. And in doing so, I'd exposed something they couldn't hide behind anymore. That their love was conditional. Fragile. Tied to an image. Mullen got engaged last month. Suddenly, the enthusiasm returned. My mother was texting relatives, booking venues, taking her to bridal fittings and spa days, doing all the things she claimed she was too busy to do for me. And here's the irony. A chunk of the family isn't going. Turns out, they noticed who was missing at my wedding. People asked. I didn't lie. I didn't rant. I just told the truth. They didn't come. Because I got married before Mullen. That's all I had to say. The truth is always enough. The last time I felt this kind of aching loneliness was on my 9th birthday. It had rained that day, big, sideways slaps of water against our old windows. The kind of rain that ruins bounce houses and backyard decorations. I stood at the living room window in my party dress, staring at the soaked streamers drooping from the porch, watching puddles form where the bouncy castle was supposed to go. No one showed up. Not one kid. We had sent the invitations. My mother had handed them out at school herself. At least, that's what she told me. But Mullen's swim meet had been the same day, and she had placed at regionals. Suddenly, everything was about Mullen's big win. My mom was too busy bragging on the phone. My dad spent the whole afternoon editing a video montage of her victory. There was a banner in the hallway that said, "Congrats, Mullen," in glittery letters. My cake had my name misspelled. I remember sitting cross-legged on the carpet, the candles flickering on a melting cake that said Rebecca, while my sister twirled in her medal and my mother told me to be grateful we even got a cake at all. That memory hit me with strange clarity the week after I talked to my parents on the phone. The call where they blamed me for sabotaging Mullen's wedding. They weren't embarrassed for skipping mine. They were furious that people found out. They'd spun some bizarre story to the family, claiming they never got the invite, that I had cut them out on purpose. My cousin sent me screenshots. Your mom says you were bitter because Mullen's wedding is going to be more extravagant than yours. It would have been funny if it weren't so bitterly familiar. Same pattern, same script. I was always the jealous one, the exaggerator, the unreliable narrator. Except now, I had grown up. I had records, screenshots, evidence, and most importantly, I had clarity. Mullen's wedding prep had become a Broadway production. My mother was driving her to fittings, booking her a 6-figure venue with chandeliers and live string quartets, talking about designer gowns like it was her own debutante ball. Meanwhile, the rest of the family had gone quiet. One by one, RSVPs to Mullen's events started shrinking. People were politely declining. Aunts were sick. Cousins were traveling. Close family friends who used to be regulars at every family function were suddenly unavailable. They hadn't told me directly why. But when people asked why my parents hadn't come to my wedding, I didn't sugarcoat it. They skipped it because I got married before Mullen. It didn't fit their image. And that was all it took. Truth, raw and simple, spreads fast when people are used to being lied to. The final crack came 2 weeks ago. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Rebecca, it's Mom. Her voice sounded unusually tight, too composed. I just wanted to let you know, people are saying things, untrue things, about us, about your father and me. I didn't say anything. Let the silence stretch. Let her fill it. We just were hurt, deeply hurt, that you would paint us as monsters just because we weren't at your wedding. It's having consequences. For Mullen. There it was. Not concern for me. Not even an apology. Just the realization that their golden image was finally cracking. Then she added, "You've always had a tendency to dramatize, Rebecca." That word, dramatize, I felt something hot rise in my chest. A rage not loud, but sharp, clean. I took a deep breath. You're right, I said, keeping my voice steady. I am dramatic. I dramatized my birthday when you forgot it. I dramatized all those years of silent disappointment. I dramatized when you missed every dance recital, every computer competition, every real moment that didn't have Mullen's face in it. There was silence. And then, something new. You should be careful how you speak to us. My father's voice cut in. He was on speakerphone. We're still your family. No, I said. You're just people I used to beg for love. I hung up before they could reply. James walked into the room just then, holding 2 mugs of tea. He didn't ask what the call was about. Just handed me mine and sat beside me on the couch. I curled into his shoulder, staring at the steam curling from my mug. I feel like I'm grieving people who are still alive, I whispered. You are, he said. But maybe they were never really alive for you. Not the way you needed. That night, I dreamed of my 9th birthday. But this time, the cake had my name spelled right. And I was the only one in the room. But somehow, it didn't feel lonely. It felt free. When I finally confronted them face to face, I expected shouting, accusations, maybe even tears. What I didn't expect was how calm I would feel. They invited me to lunch, my mother's idea. Let's clear the air, she said, as if the air wasn't thick with years of decay. I agreed, not because I thought anything would change, but because I needed closure. Needed to hear them say it out loud. We met at a French bistro downtown. One of those places with linen tablecloths and food so tiny you need a microscope to find it. My mother showed up in pearls. My father in his stiff gray blazer. Both looked like they were attending a funeral. Maybe they were. We sat, ordered drinks. They exchanged polite remarks about the weather, traffic, the blooming hydrangeas in the square. Then my mother folded her hands on the table. I just want to start by saying this wasn't easy for us. And there it was. Us. Always us. Never me. You've made it very difficult, she continued. Your sister's wedding is falling apart. Family's pulling away. We don't know what you've been saying to people, but I told the truth, I said quietly. They both looked startled, as if the truth was somehow profane. That we didn't attend your wedding because you chose to exclude us? My father snapped. I invited you. Twice. Email and paper. Confirmed delivery. You ignored both. That's not what we heard, my mother murmured. No, I said. It's not what you told yourselves. They fell silent. And then, my mother leaned in, her voice soft. Manipulative. Rebecca, honey, this jealousy. It's eating you. We can't fix things if you insist on playing the victim. That's when it happened. I laughed. Not cruelly. Not sarcastically. But freely. With the kind of disbelief that breaks into clarity. You're right, I said, setting down my fork. I am jealous. They looked at each other, triumphant. But not of Mullen's wedding. Or her looks. Or her career. I'm jealous that she got the parents I never had. That shut them up. I kept going. Steady. Calm. Surgical. I'm jealous she got the praise, the attention, the framed photos. I'm jealous that when she called crying, you held her. When I called happy, you asked if I'd lose weight before the wedding. My mother flinched. I didn't stop. I'm jealous that she got your pride. Your time. Your unconditional love. And I got moderation. Correction. Comparison. I got to be the contrast that made her shine brighter. My father started to speak, but I held up a hand. You always made it sound like I was defective. Too emotional. Too loud. Not pretty enough. Not charming enough. But the truth is, I spent years trying to be someone you'd love. And I'm done. Silence. Then my mother, voice trembling with anger, said, We never thought you'd go this far just to ruin your sister's wedding. There it is, I said softly. You're not here to listen. You're here to protect your perfect image. Again. My father leaned back, arms crossed. So what now? You want us to beg for forgiveness? Is that what this is about? No, I said, standing. I just wanted to say it to your faces. So when I walk away, you can never say you didn't know why. They said nothing. Not one word. I walked out of the bistro without looking back, the bell over the door chiming like applause. Later that night, Mullen sent me a message. A long, patronizing paragraph about how I'd always been insecure, that I was spiraling and needed to get help before I destroyed what was left of the family. She even said she'd pray for me. I didn't reply. I blocked her number and went to sit outside with James. The sky was painted in streaks of gold and lavender. The kind of sunset that makes you stop whatever you're doing and just exist. He reached for my hand. They'll never change, I whispered. No, he said, squeezing gently. But you have. And I have. That scared little girl with a misspelled birthday cake and no one to clap for her? She grew up. And she finally clapped for herself. 3 days after I walked out of that French bistro, I got a text from Mullen. She'd found my husband's number. Because I blocked her. Because silence, apparently, is the one thing she can't compete with. She started the message with a tone of diplomacy. As Rebecca's sister and someone who cares deeply about our family's well-being, I feel obligated to reach out to you. My husband showed me the texts. He laughed halfway through the second one. She tried to manipulate him into managing me. Not loving me. Not standing beside me. Managing me. She's always been sensitive, Mullen wrote. You might not understand the full picture, but a man in your position should consider the long-term implications of choosing sides in family matters. Then came the real line. The one that made both of us pause. Surely, you understand that keeping strong relationships with successful family members like myself could be beneficial. She wrote that. About herself. As if she was offering him a job. James replied simply. As her husband, I support Rebecca's happiness. Not manage her. Future concerns can be directed to her. Have a nice day. And just like that, her last move collapsed. But she wasn't done. Not yet. A week later, my cousin called. Apparently, my parents had begun reaching out to family members one by one, desperate, clumsy attempts to fix the damage. To rewrite the story, they told everyone I had deliberately excluded them from my wedding, that I had sent the invites to the wrong address, that I was spreading rumors because I was jealous of the lavish wedding Mullen deserves, which was ironic because they hadn't moved. Their email hadn't changed. I had receipts, literal receipts, but I didn't send them. I didn't say a word. Instead, I watched. And the most incredible thing happened. People stopped believing them. An aunt wrote me to say she remembered the way my mother had acted at her wedding decades ago, pushing her agenda, ignoring boundaries, elevating Mullen even then. Another cousin, previously neutral, apologized for not realizing how deep the favoritism ran. She told me she wouldn't be attending Mullen's wedding. If your parents can miss your wedding and then lie about it, I don't want to celebrate their version of love. Even the venue that my parents had secured through a distant family connection suddenly had scheduling issues. Mullen's dream location slipped through their fingers, and I did nothing. Because the truth, quiet, steady truth, was enough. In the end, it wasn't the confrontation that ruined them. It was their own panic. Their refusal to take responsibility. Their obsession with control. Their image collapsed under the weight of their own performance. And me? I was finally free. No more wondering if I was being too sensitive. No more gaslighting. No more shaping my life to fit their comfort. The little girl who used to measure her worth in crumbs of praise was gone. In her place, a woman who built a new family. One forged in honesty, in warmth, in mutual respect. The family I found with James. With his mother. With the friends who cried at my wedding and called me beautiful without qualification. With every person who showed up when my blood family didn't. I still keep the wedding photo where the front row seats are empty. Not as a wound, but as a trophy. Proof of what I let go of and what I gained. Because sometimes, the happiest ending isn't a reunion. It's walking away and realizing you never needed them to begin with.